Hello, I'm Rudy Besikoff, president of Laney College and host of the President's Desk podcast and broadcast recorded on 96.9 FM KGPC in Oakland. On February 2nd, I had the pleasure of interviewing Professor Roger Chung and Mr. Vincent Garrett with the Restoring Our Communities program at Laney College. This is a great program that provides formerly incarcerated students a second chance and a supported second chance at an educational opportunity.
Bye.
Okay, so Felicia, I got to ask you, I do tune in to FM 96.9 KGPC, not just to hear the President's Desk or Eagle Eye on Sports, but a lot of the time there's music that's playing on the program, and there are two things about it that are wonderful to me. Number one, the songs are just awesome. And number two, I've never heard them before. So could you tell us a little bit about the music selection here?
Right. You probably won't hear them on mainstream radio because they're a collection of independent artists from around the world. So they're most definitely some local artists, but we get submission of music from artists from Africa, Asia, you name it, we got it. So we play a wide variety of music. It's most definitely upbeat. It has an international flavor.
All right.
And we just try to highlight independent artists.
I think this is a great topic to welcome in our two guests, Roger Chung and Vince Garrett. Vince, if I look at your playlist, what's some music I might find?
You'll find Simba, a new Bay Area artist out of Antioch, Berkeley. Pretty good. He's dope. Kendrick Lamar. You'll find old school hip hop. You also find R&B. I got a eclectic playlist.
All right. Professor Chung, may I call you Roger?
Oh, please do.
All right. Roger, what might I find on your playlist?
Ooh, I think you would find, unfortunately, Baby Shark in Espanol, the Encanto soundtrack, and a whole bunch of stations that are geared towards my two children.
Yes, I was thinking you have kids.
Excellent. Well, really pleased to welcome both of you. Maybe we could just start just right off the bat. Roger, could you tell our listeners a little bit about Restoring Our Communities? What is it?
Thank you so much for having us. I'd love to introduce our program. And so we call ourselves Rock. Our students are rock stars. And, our program is designed to provide student support services, mentorship, and really relief from contact with the criminal justice system. And so we provide a variety of services. But I think the most important thing that defines our program is that it was founded and designed by formerly incarcerated students themselves, such as Vincent Garrett over here.
All right. And Vince, as the student services specialist for a program, could you tell us a little bit about what you do?
Yeah, what don't I do? I help onboard students, so like they're coming off the street, they don't know anything about college, they haven't enrolled, they haven't been in school in years, and I'll sit them down and I'll take them through CCC Apply. First day we go through CCC Apply and studentaid.gov, which is financial aid or FAFSA. And then I tell them to come back in a day or so. Usually that first day I'll have them fill out a ROC application so that we can have a way to contact them and keep in touch with them just in case, they disappear like so many do. I have them come back and hopefully they have their user ID and password. We're not having any issues around their financial aid, and we'll go forward with enrolling, getting them in front of a counselor, and usually in the office. Now that's with new students. We have Laney College students from their first semester to their last semester. Some are going on to universities, and so we're helping them petition, we're helping them apply to different colleges, whether it's CSU system or the UC system. We have students who are in their first semester, they need to know how to get on campus solutions, they need to know how to work Canvas, and so I help them with all of that, getting into their emails. Some don't even know how to work emails. Sometimes we have to create an email for them and just get them used to and acclimated to being a student on the campus. I'll take them around. If they have to see the counselor in person, I'll take them to the counselor in person. That's if our counselor's off. We have a ROC counselor, Cassie Phillips, who was formerly with Umoja. Sure. I'll put them in front of her via Zoom.
So Vince, it sounds like you really do a lot. You mentioned earlier, what don't you do? And I know Felicia has a question, but before we get to it, I just want to remind our listeners, Vince made reference to the FAFSA, which is the Federal Financial Aid Application Form. And for this spring semester, any Laney College student who is a resident who completes the FAFSA is eligible for Spring is Free, which includes not only tuition and fees, but books, transportation, technology, and then lunch while on campus. So with all that in mind, Felicia, I'll turn it over to you. I know you had a question.
Yes, I'm curious about how the ROC program got started and how has it evolved over the years?
Thank you for the question. So in the fall of 2016, we were fortunate enough to win a small pot of money from the state chancellor's office. We had a couple of months to spend it before the fiscal year ended, and I brought on Vince Garrett, another student service specialist named Alejandra Landin, shout out to Ale, and we looked at a whole bunch of programs that already had a standing in the Bay Area. And so we looked at programs like Underground Scholars of UC Berkeley, Street Scholars of Merritt College, and of course Project Rebound of San Francisco State to really think about how to design a program that was geared towards people coming home from either jail or prison and people who had conviction records. And so we looked at this through the lens of formerly incarcerated graduates like Vince and Ale. And so we began designing a program that was really specifically geared towards addressing conviction records. And so one of the things that we offer in our program, for example, is clean slate, financial literacy. And so we really wanted to take a look at the pathway home from a person that may have come home from a state prison and really design a pathway to make them comfortable at the college, but then also make them successful academically.
So student shows up day one to the ROC office. What are the needs out of the gate that they have?
So interestingly, a lot of students in the Bay Area who have contact with the criminal justice system have given Peralta community colleges a shot before. And so one of the things that Vince mentioned is really kind of moving them to sea level. So a lot of the folks may have had a student ID from 20 or 30 years ago.
Okay.
And so some of the things that we do is really try to make them eligible again to become a Laney College student and walk them through the necessary paperwork that has changed or walk them through the technology that's changed since they've once attended. The other half of the students are brand new to Laney College, and we'll introduce them to Vince. Vince will share his story. And then from there, what would you do, Vince?
I kind of explained it in the beginning as far as onboarding, sitting them down and getting them in front of a computer and getting them through all the different systems. But also making sure that they feel welcome, make them know that they belong, that no matter how long they've been away from school or even if they were incarcerated for years and they're just returning, that they belong in here and that we're going to do everything we can to help them be successful.
That's great. Vincent, could you share your story with our listeners?
Sure. I became incarcerated in the mid-90s. I had an addiction at the time. I had issues that were unaddressed, trauma and things of that nature, things I didn't even know how to put words to. And so the way I dealt with it was using drugs. So I caught my first case in like 93. I just bounced around in and out of, because, incarceration wasn't really addressing the underlying problem was the addiction. And they tried to, but, I went to drug diversion one day. I showed up 5 minutes late. They didn't let me in. I just gave up on it. So I just kind of went through the shuffle as far as being on probation. Then eventually they gave me a prison term. They had a suspended sentence, and then I took the case or whatever because I didn't follow through the probation. And so anyway, I ended up on parole, and I didn't do too good on parole either because I wasn't addressing the underlying issue. So anyway, in 99, I finally began dealing with the issue, which was addiction. I got clean, been clean ever since, so I've been able to not go back to prison, not recidivate. I was able to get off parole in a year, and in that year, I started going to school myself. I dropped out because I had a child and I decided to go to work. And so I became an electrician. And so I went that route for a while until the recession in 2008. And I kind of was like left languishing, ended up never working in that field again. And so I was kind of forced to come back to school. And I didn't really know what I wanted to do, but I know that if no one would hire me, maybe I can just hire myself, become an entrepreneur. And so I came back to Merritt College. I started at College Alameda, and I went to Merritt College, and I didn't really know what I wanted to do, but I kind of just fell into being an office worker. as a student worker. So shout out to all the student workers out there. Really important because it changed me from being a person that worked with his hands and was used to climbing up ladders and all that kind of stuff to being in the office and organizing it and knowing how to interface with the dean, who was my supervisor at the time, and then the VPs and presidents and also students and parents. And it just changed me as a working person. So, and I just kept going to school. I followed my mentor, Ronald Moss, rest in peace. He was a person that was over Street Scholars, and we took Street Scholars to UC Berkeley. He got me in UC Berkeley. He got me believing that I can even go to a UC Berkeley, because that wasn't the plan. I was just going to get my little AA and go start a job and be Master P or somebody, I don't know. And so, you know, my whole trajectory changed once I went to UC Berkeley, and I kind of got into this work of reentry.
Vince, really thank you for sharing your story with us, and we're so pleased to be welcoming both you and Roger Chung to the President's Desk right here on 96.9 KGPC.
Vincent, you can relate to many of the students that are enrolled in the ROC program. Can you tell me specifically some of the challenges that make it hard for someone who was formerly incarcerated to go to college again, or just go to college?
Yeah, for some, their initial experiences with educational systems weren't good to begin with. I was one of those students that was pushed out in '93. I was supposed to be in graduating that year, and instead I ended up going to jail and then started that whole cycle. So many other students have that experience, and so they come into educational institutions with a certain idea of how this, you know, it was traumatic for them in the past. So they don't come in with a positive outlook on it, and they feel like they don't belong. I know I didn't. I didn't know the lingo. I didn't know anything about it. You know, having those experiences myself, I'm able to kind of empathize with where they're at. And then also we have people that have been in prison for 36, 40 years, 20 years, people that have been away for a long time. So the technology gap is there.
Sure.
You know, they're looking for a paper application. That's what it used to be.
Right.
And now everything is online. So, you know, just the technology gap is the biggest one.
Vince, thank you so much. Really just appreciating your insights and all that you're doing to serve our students. I'd like to shift over to Roger. Roger, could you tell us a little bit about, you know, you're also the ethnic studies professor, and we're so glad to have you at Laney, but talk about the support and the leadership that you provide to the ROC program.
Yeah, so I think I rely on student service specialists like Vince to really kind of lead the peer mentorship effort, kind of set the tone in our ROC Center to welcome everyone and to really lead from a student-centered perspective. Because I myself am not formally incarcerated, you know, I think my ally role is really to figure out ways to maintain funding for the program, to design and deepen partnerships for the program, and to expand the ROC vision throughout the region and throughout the county. And so, you know, with folks like Vince, we've been able to, since 2016, we've been able to award over 150 degrees and certificates to students. Amazing. We've seen more than 25 students go to UC Berkeley alone following Vince's footsteps. And we know that community college education, even if it's a certificate or an AA, it can lead to living wage jobs out there. So we're seeing some of our ROC students do things like buy homes right now, pay for their students or pay for their children's college education right now. And so my role at ROC really is to ensure that folks like Vince are happy and that they can continue to do the work that they need to do, and also to really find innovative ways to make sure that our students are getting what they need to accelerate towards that degree, whether that's financial coaching, whether that's clean slate, whether that's advising, mentorship, community connections. And so that's kind of what my role is at ROC right now.
Could you tell our listeners what Clean Slate is?
Yeah, so a big shout out to Alameda County Public Defender's Office. And so we have a deep partnership with the Clean Slate program. And we are actually hosting a Clean Slate event February 1st on Wednesday at 11 o'clock at our ROC office. And so what Clean Slate does for our students, and this is specific to Alameda County convictions, is they seek relief for those convictions that can accelerate a person towards better housing, better employment, but also just really giving that person a good amount of information on their history, how to check a box, when not to check a box. And it's a really crucial, I think, service for students at a community college that I think is unique to Laney College, unique to Rock, but it also really specifically engages, I think, a history that a lot of folks may not want to talk about, think about, or return to. And our partners at Alameda County Public Defender's Office are amazing at providing that service for our students. So, yeah.
What's a recent grant that you were able to obtain, and what has it led to?
Yeah, so I think the most recent pot of funding that has really scaled Rock programming has been at the Alameda County Juvenile Justice Center. And so if folks out there have heard of SB 823, this is the state closure of the Division of Juvenile Justice. And many of those young people who would otherwise have been to DJJ, or formerly CYA, are now returning back to the county. And so we've been able to launch face-to-face programming in the Alameda County Juvenile Justice Center. We're teaching counseling, we're teaching English, and we just launched our first sports fitness fundamentals of basketball class yesterday.
Wow.
And so we're looking forward to scaling that program. We're looking forward to getting those young, promising folks out of incarceration and into college and move them towards their degrees, living wage jobs, and their dreams.
That's amazing. So it's not just supporting formerly incarcerated students, but now presently incarcerated.
Presently incarcerated young people right here in Alameda County. Yep.
Wow, that's amazing. And it's also kind of a step forward. And you know, I have to say that for our listeners, just full disclosure, 2016, just hearing about the support at Laney College for formerly incarcerated, that was the first time I'd ever heard of Laney College. It was actually my introduction to Laney, and here I am now the president. So obviously it was a good message from the beginning. So you talked about that. You've talked about the recent grant and what's currently happening. What do you see as kind of the next frontiers for Rock?
Yeah, I think we'd like to expand what we're doing at the Juvenile Justice Center. We just got Vince clearance so that he can go up there and mentor a lot of those students as well.
Lucky them.
Yeah, and so we look to scale that program up a lot. We look to create a very intentional bridge to transition those youth to our campus. But I think our next big vision is to really kind of think about the Alameda County region, areas that may not be in our college's specific service district. And so folks know the county jail in Alameda County is Santa Rita. It's in Dublin, and it's a little bit far away from us, but we know that a lot of the residents of that facility have Oakland addresses, and so we're really trying to find a way to do outreach and let people know that if they're coming out of Santa Rita jail, they have a home here at Laney College as well. So I think that's really the next frontier for us.
Fantastic.
Oh, that's great. Vince, I'll go ahead and ask you the same question. What do you see lies ahead for the Rock program? What would you like to see happen in the future?
I like to see Rock type programs at every campus. Right now, Street Scholars is coming back. They've been offline because of the pandemic, and they didn't have any staffing during the pandemic. So, and then the executive director and overall visionary for that program passed away last year, and Ronald Moss. And so it's good to see that his mentees are stepping up to the plate and they're bringing it back. I hope they get funding for that. I hope we get a Rock type program at Alameda and Berkeley City. Right now we've been supporting students from all campuses, no matter what major or degree they're getting and what campus they come from. We just want to make sure that they're supported throughout the district. So my hope for the future is to get like district level person who can oversee, or maybe that person is me.
So you'd like to see it extend across 4 campuses?
Oh yeah.
I'm not quite sure who can answer this question, either Roger or Vince, but I'm curious. I know that there had been some government action with creating a box that if you have a prior conviction, that you're not eligible for financial aid. Is there ways around that? And I'm just flabbergasted by the fact that we would do something that would prevent somebody from moving their life ahead and creating a better path for themselves.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think it's important to demystify some of those things. I think that a lot of things have changed at the federal level, including now a student no longer has to select selective services before the age of 26. That was a huge barrier for a lot of our students to receive federal financial aid. A conviction record will not disqualify a student with a conviction record for financial aid, with the exception, and this is also something that can be challenged and could be thought through. But I think in general, if a student was receiving federal financial aid and received a drug conviction while as a recipient of federal financial aid, then that would disqualify them. But I do believe that there are other ways to kind of regain that eligibility. But folks out there are listening, you have a conviction record. It should not prevent you from getting federal financial aid. And so please come see us, come see Vince, and we'll make sure we'll take care of you.
So where do students come to see you? And is there a phone number, email? Could you share that?
Yes, we're on the Laney College campus, Building E, room 203. Our website is www.laney.edu/restoring our communities. Again, that's /restoring our communities. It's on the Laney website. Our phone number, you can call us at 510-464-3411. Again, that's 464-3411.
All right. So at the time the show airs, we're at the beginning of the spring semester. Any advice for Rock students as they start spring 2023?
Yeah, easy does it. A lot of students come in and they're like, they don't understand any of the systems. And it's like, of course not. You've never been to school or you haven't been to school in a long time. So just relax. We got you. We're going to walk you through these processes. If any problems come up, we're just going to deal with them one by one and just have some patience and make sure you just show up to class regardless. Show up to class and do your work and do your best. You know, it takes time to get all of this stuff, and it's a lot. But we see after a semester, in fact, after half a semester, our students really start getting it. Mentor Ronald Moss, he used to say it takes about 3 semesters for a person to be just a person that real college student. Sure. So we live by that.
Excellent. And Roger, a quick question for you. I imagine some of our listeners hearing this show might want to take your class. Could you tell us what you're teaching at Laney?
Yeah, so over the last few years, my responsibilities at Rock has kind of cut into my course offerings, but I am in the Department of Ethnic Studies. Please come take classes with us. We have an amazing African American Studies program, MLAT program, Asian American Studies program that we're revamping, and I teach the Ethnic Studies classes. This semester, I'm teaching Ethnic Studies 30, Race, Gender, and Health, hybrid and online. That knocks out multiple requirements, specifically the Area E requirement for CSU transfer. I teach classes like race class in schools, introduction to ethnic studies, and I think fun classes like race, gender, and sports. And so if anyone out there is interested in an AA, an Associates for Transfer, or just really wants to learn a little bit more about comparative racial relations and the dynamics that race plays in social institutions in the U.S., come see us.
Excellent. Well, Roger and Vince, I just want to congratulate you both on just this great program that you offer students, and also want to just congratulate both of you as professionals and the great things you've done with your lives and your careers. And thank you again for joining us today.
All right.
Thank you so much, and thank you for supporting Rock.
Of course. As we wrap up another edition of the President's Desk, we want to thank our listeners up and down the great state of California, from the far north in the 717 and the 530, all the way down to SoCal in the 619 and 858, as well as our listeners right here in the 510, tuning in from Lake Merritt, Oakland, Chinatown, downtown Oakland, West Oakland, East Lake, Fruitvale, Diamond, North Oakland, Adams Point, Central Oakland, East Oakland, the Oakland Hills, Montclair, Piedmont, and of course, those right here on the Laney campus listening to us. As we close up shop at the President's Desk, straighten the chairs and turn the desk light off on today's program. Felicia, take us home.
Look at you with all those prefixes. Thank you for tuning into the President's Desk, a program available on radio and podcast, hosted by Laney College President, Dr. Rudy Besikoff. It airs each Wednesday at 2 a.m. and 2 p.m. on 96.9 KGPC. To listen